Welcome to Theory of Pets. I'm a passionate pet owner with a drive to help others like me uncover the truth about the pet industry and what goes on behind the scenes.
Thanks for tuning in for Top Dog Tips. If you're a regular listener, you know I took a little hiatus this summer. I took some time off to be with my family and do some things with my husband and my kids. We did some traveling and some things that made it kind of difficult to schedule interviews. It's also a difficult time to schedule interviews with experts in the pet industry. It's a very busy time, lots of new products rolling out, lots of trade shows, things like that. So I took a little break this summer, but one of the topics that came up that I really wanted to learn more about was blue green algae. If you didn't hear about this summer, then you must not watch regular news or scroll through social media because it was everywhere. Everyone was talking about blue green algae. I did a lot of research on this type of algae. People were saying that it was toxic to dogs, that it would kill your pets, that it had already killed some pets. So I live in Maine. We live in a very rural area. We do a lot of hiking, fishing, outdoor things. We take our dogs with us quite often. They swim in water quite often, from rivers and ponds and lakes to streams when we go hiking. So I really wanted to do some research on what exactly is blue green algae. How do you tell, if your dog's been poisoned by it, and obviously how you can prevent the poisoning. So I wanted to share that information with you today. Blue green algae was reported in all 50 states, and a lot of pet parents are wondering how to keep their dogs safe from this toxic sludge. It's here now. They, as far as I know, haven't been doing anything as far as eradicating it. So obviously more research, more time, and I'm sure they will figure out a way to get rid of it, and we will be safe. But in the meantime, we need to educate ourselves and certainly keep ourselves and our pets safe from this toxic type of algae. So the first step to protecting your dog is being informed. What is blue green algae? That was my first question. Blue green algae is also known as cyanobacteria. It's a group of organisms that thrive in fresh bodies of water during periods of warm weather. So that's why we heard about it a lot this summer. If you live in an area that's warm year round, it may be something that you hear about year round. Here in Maine, obviously, our fresh water is frozen in the wintertime, so we don't have to worry about that as much, but it will be back in the spring and summer next year. The warm weather allows it to spawn and grow very rapidly, and it is toxic to animals. Your pets can be poisoned if they drink the water that it's in or swim in water with blue-green algae. The cyanobacteria blooms during temperatures over 75 degrees, typically that's Fahrenheit. And overgrowth occurs in water with high levels of nitrogen as a result of flooding and rain or snow runoff. So here in Maine, it's something that in the spring, our temperatures start to warm up, the snow starts to melt, and you get those sometimes just standing water in wet areas. They have those pockets of standing water. It's all snow runoff. It's the rain from the spring. The temperatures are starting to rise, and that's where we see it. So if you're hiking, if you're exploring, if you have areas like that on your property and your pets are able to get into that water, these are the things that you really need to be cautious about. In stagnant water, cyanobacteria tend to look like pond scum. It resembles a green slime or kind of like a green paint on the water's surface, right on the top of the water. If the overgrowth is really severe, you can see maybe dead fish or waterfowl because it poisons them as well. So obviously, those are signs. Those are major signs. If you see dead animals around water, you know that you need to keep your pet away from it. But look for that green slime before the overgrowth gets really severe. Sometimes it's just that green slime that you'll see on the very top surface of the water. If your dog or cat gets into it, they can get poisoned if they drink or swim in the water, as I mentioned. Think about them swimming in the water. It gets on their coat, it gets in their eyes, their mouth. They might lick themselves when they get out of the water and ingest it that way. So symptoms that your pet has blue-green algae poisoning include panting, diarrhea, excessive drooling. Some dogs and cats have been shown to have seizures after ingesting the bacteria, disorientation, vomiting. If left untreated and it gets severe, liver failure and respiratory failure have been noted as well. So this is a really serious topic. It's something that you really need to be concerned about, and it's something that happens in areas over 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's virtually everywhere. As I mentioned, it's been reported in all 50 states in the United States. So if you're thinking like, oh, Alaska, it's cold there all the time. Well, not too cold for blue-green algae. It's been reported there as well. So be very careful, be very cautious around standing water. This is not the only bacteria that thrives in standing fresh water. It is not the only bacteria that is poisonous or toxic to pets. So one of the tips that I always give pet owners is just, and I'm not saying don't let your dog swim in the lake or the river. We certainly take our dogs swimming, but be cautious before you let your dog get in. Just take a little peek around. If you notice any algae or bacteria growths on the surface of the water, rethink your decision. Take your dog somewhere else. The other thing, is those smaller, like standing little ponds, puddles. Those are the things that can get really dangerous. That really stagnant water, a lot of times with rivers and lakes that are fed by rivers or streams, they're getting new water all the time. But when you get flooding, when you get snow melt, when you get that stagnant water kind of puddling up everywhere, that's when you really want to be cautious. Don't let your dog, if you have a big piece of property, let your dog just go wandering through the woods by himself. Really keep an eye on it, monitor things. If you notice your pet has any of those symptoms and he's been in or near the water recently, consult your vet immediately, because specifically cyanobacteria poisoning can be fatal, but there are other types of bacteria in stagnant water that can make your dog extremely ill and have some really serious long-term effects. So it's always better to be safe than sorry. As I mentioned, ways to prevent the poisoning. Your pet should not be allowed to drink from stagnant bodies of water, period. Monitor him closely around ponds or lakes with green or blue algae slime on the surface, or around the shoreline. The best thing to do is just stay away. Before you let your dog swim in a pond or lake, make sure to inspect the water beforehand. If you're not sure if the water contains blue-green algae, keep him out of the water as a precaution. If your pet does swim in stagnant water, rinse him off as soon as possible with fresh water. So what we typically do is just give him a bath under the hose when we get home. Try and get as much off with the fresh water as possible. Since cyanobacteria sticks to your dog's fur and it is toxic if your dog licks himself and consumes it, rinsing them off immediately after swimming in a pond or lake is really crucial. Obviously, if you're out somewhere where there is no fresh running water, say, for example, you're out hiking somewhere or you're in a remote location, you're camping and there's no fresh running water, you need to really keep your pet out of standing fresh water if possible in those scenarios. Blue-green algae poisoning can be fatal. So again, if you notice those symptoms that I mentioned, excessive panting, diarrhea, excessive drooling, or something more serious like seizures, disorientation, vomiting, liver failure, respiratory failure, those are all signs and symptoms, and that's what it can lead to. So you really want to be certain to observe your pet after he swims, look at his behavior, notice what's going on, and just be mindful. That's how we really protect our pets. You don't want to just keep your dog in a bubble, keep them at home, not let them ever go out swimming or have any fun or anything like that. That's certainly not what I'm saying, but just educate yourself, know what blue-green algae looks like. A quick Google search, if you type in blue-green algae or cyanobacteria, you will find pictures in 10 seconds. So take a look at it and then just observe the area that you're allowing your dog to romp and play in. That's the biggest thing for pet parents, is just to educate yourself, and that's how you keep you and your pet safe. If you have any other questions about blue-green algae, or any questions that I might be able to answer for you on, stagnant water and bacteria in that, feel free to jump on our website, theoryofpets.com, and leave your questions there. Also, as I mentioned, this was something that I kept seeing coming up on the news. It was coming up in my news feed on Facebook. If you have something that you're just itching to learn more about, maybe you don't have the time to do the research yourself, or you've done the research, but there's not a whole lot of consistent data out there, feel free, get on theoryofpets.com, leave me your topic idea, let me know. I will do the work for you. I will do the research, or I will find an expert in the pet industry that can help answer these questions. Chances are you're a pet owner. If you're having that question, there are lots of other pet owners out there having the same question and unable to find an answer. So I appreciate you guys sharing topic ideas with me. That's the whole point of this podcast, is to educate myself, to help educate you, to get our questions answered as a pet community. So theoryofpets.com, hop on there and leave your ideas, comments, questions, feedback, anything like that. And also, while you're listening, whatever you're listening through, whether it's iTunes or the Google Play Store, just leave a quick review of the podcast if you enjoy it. I really appreciate that. It helps me when I am reaching out to experts to get them to come on for interviews. I can show them that you guys are out there and you're listening and you want to hear more. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll be back with another hot topic very soon.